Hey guys, Corell Cooper with OnTheBlack.com doing a little Q&A segment where you guys send me in some questions and I do my best to answer them. So let's take a look at a couple of questions I got over the past week. So the first question comes from Go57 Mets, and he asks, at the trade deadline this year, who would you like to see the Mets pursue and who would you like them not to give up? And if anyone you think Omar will end up getting, and for who. So first, let me start by saying who I don't want to see go in a trade this year. It's only the core group of guys on the Mets, and that's Reyes, Beltran, Wright, and K-Rod. Those are the only guys that I don't want to see moved in any trade this year. All the other players on the team, in my opinion, are fair game as long as it makes sense. But, you know, in looking at trades and where I want the Mets to fill needs at the trade deadline, I think there's two spots. One would be a corner outfield spot, and the other would be another frontline starting pitcher. So let's start with the corner outfield spots. I mean, to me, Matt Holliday is probably the most logical option there, for the simple fact that he's in the last year of his deal with Oakland right now. If Oakland falls out of the race by the All-Star break, you know, you can look to see them shop him around and try to get some young players in return, or some players that, you know, could help their team fit into their mold that aren't being paid a lot of money right now. So, and I think Matt Holliday would be a nice fit for the Mets. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, his power numbers were inflated because he played in Colorado, but you still got to put the bat on the ball. And, you know, I think he would be a nice fit for the Mets lineup. As far as a starting pitcher, and, you know, I know he has a no-trade clause, and I know he said that he doesn't want to play in New York, but I think Jake Peavy is the logical choice there for the Mets if they could somehow pull that off. He signed to 2013, which means the Mets don't have to worry about trading for him and then trying to re-sign him in the offseason. He'd be a nice, solid number 2 behind Johan Santana and be a good guy to have in that rotation. So, you know, those would be the two guys that I would like to see. If the Mets are going to make a major move by the trade deadline, I'd like to see one or both of those guys in Met uniforms. You know, the other spot would be first base, but this all depends on, you know, if Carlos Delgado is going to come back and if the Mets feel he's going to be healthy. But, you know, pursuing someone like a Nick Johnson might not be a bad idea, but only if Delgado is not going to be healthy, because you don't want a healthy Delgado coming back and then have Nick Johnson on the team and then you have nowhere else to play Nick Johnson. So only if Delgado is going to come back. In terms of who I think is going to go, I'll be very surprised if Ryan Church is in a Met uniform after the trade deadline. I think the Mets, you know, Jerry Manuel has shown that he's not too fond of Church for whatever reason. I mean, I personally like Church as a ball player. I think he's a good hitter and he has an excellent arm in the outfield and plays a good right field. But for some reason, I just get the feeling the Mets don't like Church too much. They mishandled him, I think, last year with all his concussions, and they really haven't given him any solid playing time this year either, and now he's on the DL. So I think Church will probably be one of the guys that are going to go in one of these packages to a trade somewhere before the trade deadline, but we'll see. And the next question comes from Max, and Max asks, can you tell us what you think of Daniel Murphy at first base, and also talk about Fernando Martinez? So let's start with Murphy. For whatever reason, well, I guess it's because he hasn't been hitting, but you know, Murphy really hasn't gotten much time at first base. I think he's looked pretty good though when he's been out there, and he's fielded the ball pretty well. So you know, defensively he's been okay at first base. But it seems like Fernando Tatis has been getting the majority of the time there, and I guess that's because Murphy hasn't been hitting the ball. Which was weird, though, is that, you know, Wednesday Murphy had an excellent game at the plate, and he hit the ball all over the field. And, you know, last night the Manuel didn't put Murphy back in the lineup, and I understand that there was a lefty on the mound, and you may not want to put Murphy in there against lefties, but you know, I just thought it was kind of weird that after coming off a good hitting performance, that he wasn't right back out there. Now, hopefully he'll get into a game either today or tomorrow. But defensively, Murphy's been good. I think he's got to pick it up a little bit more offensively. And then, you know, regarding Fernando Martinez, I think it's kind of a little bit too early to make a a statement or an evaluation on how Fernando Martinez has been doing. It's only been a couple games. He's yet to have a hit in the game. Some at bats at the plate, he's looked a little anxious, which is to be expected from a 20-year-old kid. But in other at bats at the plate, he's looked a little patient and has taken some pitches. One thing I will say is that he can't pop the ball up and not run it out like he did the other day. That's just unacceptable, regardless of whether you're 20 years old or not. You learn in Little League to run balls out. So hopefully we won't see that happen from Fernando Martinez again. But I say let's give him a little bit time here before we make an evaluation about him and his skill level.